I got some news for you guys that may not be that surprising. But ladies and gentlemen, Canada is getting worse. The country that I was born and raised in is getting worse. Canada in general is on the decline. It's on the decline as a country, and people are really starting to feel it. And I've kind of figured this would have happened. You know, I've seen the writing on the wall for a little while now, but I think people are starting to realize that Canada as a country is getting worse. It's on the decline. And so in this video, I'm going to discuss the top 5 signs that Canada is getting worse. It's on a decline as a country. And I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to get into that right now. So guys, welcome to Money Talk. My name is Chris Vincelli, and the first sign you need to look at in seeing how Canada is on the decline is that it's becoming extremely unaffordable to live in. It's becoming very unaffordable to purchase a home in Canada. If you're looking to live in Canada's biggest cities like Toronto or Vancouver, it is extremely unaffordable to live in those cities. It is next to impossible, especially if you're a young person, it's next to impossible to purchase a home in some of Canada's biggest cities. Let's just take a look at the numbers, all right? The average sale price for a home in Canada in August of 2023 was over $660,000. That's just the average price of a home across all of Canada, not its biggest cities, not its suburbs, across all of Canada. That is a very high number. But it looks even more unaffordable when you look at the price of a home in Canada's biggest cities, namely Toronto and Vancouver. In both Toronto and Vancouver, the average sale price of a home is over $1 million. That's nuts. That is insane. That basically means that young people are practically shut out of the housing market in some of Canada's biggest cities. As a young person, you're either gonna need help from your parents, or you might need to team up with your spouse in order to have the funds available to buy a home. So yes, Canada's housing affordability is ridiculous. It's insane. It's disgusting how unaffordable housing is in Canada, and that hurts particularly those who are young. Speaking of housing, another sign that Canada is getting worse, a sign that Canada is on the decline, is that Canada's homelessness problem is also getting worse. You have tent cities appearing all over Canada's biggest cities like Toronto and Vancouver, but even in places like Calgary where you weren't really used to seeing tent cities pop up in cities like Calgary. And as a result, Canadians are becoming more and more fed up with the homelessness problem in Canada. According to latest polls, 58% of Canadians say that homelessness is a problem in their community, and a plurality of 46% of Canadians say that homelessness makes them feel unsafe in their community as well. What's more, another 39% of Canadians say that homelessness has increased acts of violence in their community. So acts of violence is directly tied to homelessness in their communities, in their cities. So even in this perceived utopia of Canada, where the welfare state is supposed to help everyone, well, it turns out that's not the case. Homelessness is thriving in this socialist paradise of Canada. And I mean that rhetorically. There is no such thing as a socialist paradise. But yes, homelessness is a growing problem. Canadians are realizing it, and they're feeling more and more unsafe in their communities because of it. Another sign that things are getting worse in Canada is the overall decline of its healthcare system. Canadians are very proud of their healthcare system. I don't know why. I've always found it to suck to a certain extent, but Canadians are very proud of it. Well, guess what? Their healthcare system is starting to fall apart. Medical wait times are increasing, and wait times have gotten to a ridiculous point where people are waiting months and months for medical treatment. The average wait time for medical treatment in Canada is currently 27 weeks. That's more than 6 months from the time you notice you have some medical ailment to when you actually get treatment for it. It does vary by province, but to give you an example, average wait time in British Columbia is 26 weeks. Average wait time in Alberta is 33 weeks. In Ontario, it's 20 weeks. And in my home province of Quebec, it's 29 weeks. Heck, in certain provinces like Nova Scotia, wait times are over a year, 58 weeks. I mean, how pathetic is that? You know, people make fun of the United States saying that they're the only developed country without universal health care. But in Canada, you know, people say they have universal health care, accessible health care, but it doesn't seem that accessible. Sounds like you need to wait a really long time to get treatment. Okay, I got a couple more points, but the next sign, the next indication that Canada is getting worse is that Canada is actually starting to scare away its recent immigrants. Canada has always been very welcoming, very open to immigration, and immigrants have tended to choose Canada as a destination. But in recent years, immigrants are actually starting to leave Canada. They're not choosing to stay there permanently. In 2021, just around 45% of immigrants who've arrived in the last 10 years had eventually become citizens. But 20 years prior, in 2001, that number was a lot different. 75% of immigrants who had come in the last 10 years had eventually become citizens. That's telling you that a lot of people who've immigrated to Canada, who've become permanent residents, aren't necessarily looking to become citizens of Canada. Maybe staying in Canada for the long term isn't really in the cards for them. In addition, according to a recent survey, more than 1/5 of recent immigrants to Canada are actually making plans to leave Canada. So you know your country is not on the right track when your recent immigrants are already thinking of leaving the place they just arrived in. So yeah, Canada is scaring away its recent immigrants. That's definitely not a good sign for the country. Some of the reasons why immigrants are looking to leave Canada is because of its high cost of living, its unaffordable cities, and their difficulty in finding jobs, in finding employment opportunities. And finally, the last sign that Canada is actually getting worse is how Canadians themselves view their own country. In 2023, 64% of Canadians were satisfied with their country. But that's actually down pretty significantly from the numbers we saw just a couple years prior in 2021, where 74% were satisfied with Canada. So clearly, fewer and fewer Canadians are satisfied with their own country. It's not just me who's saying this. It's not just me who's noticing that Canada is getting worse, that Canada's on the decline. Canadians themselves are becoming more and more dissatisfied with their country. So you know that when people are actually growing dissatisfied with their very own country, things are looking bad. Things are on the wrong track. Canada is getting worse off. It's noticeable. Canadians are taking note. And, I think these are important signs to look at when looking at Canada as a whole. I left Canada years ago. I felt that the writing was on the wall. And I think a lot of Canadians and a lot of people around the world are taking notice of the fact that Canada is not the promised land that people make it out to be. Canada might be a country with its best days behind it. And look, we're gonna see what the future has in store. But what do you think? Do you currently live in Canada? How do you feel about some of the signs I pointed out in this video? What are your thoughts? Do you think Canada is actually worse off? Do you think Canada is on the decline? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And for those of you who don't live in Canada, maybe you're just curious as to what Canada's all about. Maybe you're looking to move to Canada. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And by the way, whether you've seen my content before or this is the first time viewing one of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every single time I come out with other great and similar content. And go ahead and smash that like button as well. Smashing that like button helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. So go ahead and hit that like button. And lastly, yes, I am on Instagram, so feel free to follow me there too. Thanks everyone. Talk soon.